Hello, BookTube. My personal library is in an enormous amount of flux, almost a total amount of flux. Not necessarily the books. There are quite a few books, about 1,000 books that I know I want to keep. But all the rest of them, I don't know that I want to keep. And where they're going to be and how they're going to be arranged, OMG. Nothing is for granted. Nothing. And that's going to run into the refiner's fire next week with an influx of, I'm guessing, 200 books. So now is the last time in the world where I would do a library tour, a shelf tour of any kind. But I was shirtless Skyping with Joe Spivey, and he mentioned that he was going to do the latest installment in his own ongoing library tour. And I said, well, that sounds like great fun. And he said, you should do one too. And I said, well, I don't really want to because I'm rearranging my whole library. Well, any library tour, any shelf tour that I did would be invalidated in a week. And he said that if I didn't do one, I was a soy boy cuck. And that's all it took. So I'm going to do an impromptu library tour, just a shelf tour here. We'll see what we have. None of this will be the same. I'm going to do a definitive library tour as soon as my library has settled down. But it has not yet. It is not going to in the immediate future. Maybe the second half of 2024 would be a time for a complete library tour of my brand new, completely settled library. But in the meantime, let's look at what we have here. We have A Book of One's Own by Thomas Mallon. This is an incredible study of diaries, journal entries. It's well worth you reading if you keep a diary, but it's also well worth you reading if you've thought about it and have never actually buckled down to do it. Keeping a personal journal is an incredibly rewarding thing to do. I've been doing it forever, just forever. It's incredibly rewarding. I've made videos on it. I strongly suggest that you do it, that you give it a try. And this book shows you the chapters are grouped around a whole bunch of people who have done that in the past, whose diaries we have, so that you can look at the different strategies, the different ways you can think about keeping a diary. As Thomas Mallon rather winningly puts it in that book, nothing, it turns out, almost never happens. So if you're worried that you're not going to be able to fill your book, nothing never happens. You're always going to be able to write something. Okay, then we have The Modern Library, The Red and the Black by Stendhal with this cover. I could not let this go. I had to have this cover. There was a brief period of time where whoever did this cover, whoever designed it, designed a few other covers too. All just blatantly sexual in ways that are totally incongruous with the books themselves. I had to keep this one. I love, which translation is this? This is this is a translation by Burton Raffle, famous translator of Beowulf. I love this novel, both the original and in translation, so I was happy to have the super sexy cover. Okay, then we have Kathleen Winsor. This is her great historical novel, Forever Amber, about a young woman in the England of the Merry Monarch, the England of Restoration England. It's big, it's wonderful. I have this because I've had so many mass market paperbacks over the years that just fell apart on me. And also, for a while, there was a trade paperback that was made. It's quite nice, but not strong enough. This is strong enough, so that if I feel like going back to Forever Amber, and I do, I will have something that can take the strain. Although I'm looking for a backup copy. I'm looking for another hardcover of Forever Amber. It'll be on the list for next week. Okay, then we have a John le Carré novel that I don't have as an ebook. I have quite a few of his books as ebooks, but I don't have this one, A Legacy of Spies. A later book, something that I was privileged, very happy that I got a chance to review le Carré while he was still a working author. He more or less fell between the cracks of my reviewing, the two periods of my reviewing history, so that I didn't review him under my own name when he was writing books the first time, and then I left reviewing for a quarter of a century and thought I'd missed my chance. I got a chance to review him and a few other authors, a few other big literary names of the era, and that's always wonderful, even though I don't think this is absolutely his strongest book. Oh, okay, great. Oh, fantastic. All right, let's leave you out of here so that we're not fighting with things. Let's leave you out so we can just grab the others easily. This is a new addition to this room, a perfect example of how this library is in upheaval. This is a very private spy, the letters of John le Carré. Big, fat volume that is fantastic. Just fantastic letter collection. Full of letter collections, I believe, are a dying kind of literature, but this is everything that you want. It's not the man in full, because that's not how you write. Those of you who don't know what letters were like, that's not how you wrote letters, even to your loved ones. You weren't totally confessional. Instead, it's sculpting, a very careful sculpting. This is an amazing literary work by le Carré. Let's see. Oh, then this is the great old paperback of the complete Western stories of Elmore Leonard. I have this as an ebook, but I have the trade paperback as well because this is just so good. There's barely a dud in this thing. Leonard was famous, of course, for his kind of noirish crime novels, but he was a great Western writer. Just fantastic. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if the novels are in here. Probably they're not. Let's take a quick look. No, the novels aren't in here. It's just the short stories, but that's a mighty big just, because they're amazingly good. Okay, then we have Jennifer Toth. This is The Mole People, her book about life in abandoned subway tunnels far beneath the city of New York. This is deliriously delightful reading. You would think that maybe a little of the joy of this would have been lessened for me by subsequent revelations that a lot of this is false, that or at least can't be verified, that a lot of these stories are not true, but nevertheless, the stories themselves are things to conjure with. And I don't doubt that something like this is true. New York has thousands of miles of abandoned subway tunnels and platforms and whatnot, including on levels where workers don't go anymore. If workers could once get there, if commuters could once get there, then people can get there. They're not walled off or irradiated. I'd love to see, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that I'd love to see a modern update of The Mole People. It couldn't be by Jennifer Toth, because I'm pretty sure this book torpedoed her reliability. But could somebody examine this subject and find out if there actually is any truth to it, and to what extent there's truth to it? That would be wonderful. Then we have an older book by Harold Kirker and James Kirker. This is Bullfinchs Boston. Thomas Bullfinch was an architect, a beautifully skilled architect. There are quite a few gems of his work here in Boston, and that's what this is. This is just this book is a tour through his famous work. It ends up being, you get pictures of his famous work. If I remember correctly, you also get a picture of the architect as a young super hottie. He was an extremely sarcastic man. I think if I remember correctly, the portrait used here is one where you can tell. There's Charles Bullfinch when he was a young man. You can he's got the sort of Joe Spivey look to him, doesn't he? There are, I think, still Bullfinch tours here in Boston. We'll give you potted histories of all of the major Bullfinch buildings and fronts and edifices that are still here. Okay, then we have this beautiful illustrated edition of The Unfinished Tales by Tolkien, with the cloth bookmark there and the wonderful end papers there for a map, and these illustrations, these full color illustrations, just amazingly good volume. I squealed when the publisher sent it to me, and the same thing is true here with this the companion, the Illustrated Silmarillion. Same thing, just a gorgeous volumes. I now have slowly but surely I am racking up a whole bunch of Tolkien, of these deluxe Tolkien volumes. I just got a box set of them just the other day. And then we can wrap up with something that was in this room for the longest time, and then I got rid of it. I sent it away to one of you and just did without it for years and years, and then I found it again. So I gladly added it back to this room. This is the Marion Schwartz translation of Oblomov by Goncharo, with the rather nice cover illustration. This is the large part of the beginning of this is the story of a man who really can't summon the will to get out of bed. so the cover is well chosen, and I love this translation. It's so much better than the Penguin translation, which was the only other one that I'd read. I brought it in here immediately, 10 years ago when this came out? When did this come out? I got this from the publisher 2008. It came out in 2008. I got it then. I think I wrote about it. I can't, if I remember correctly, I'll try to leave a link to it down below. But then I knew immediately that I was going to want to keep it. That not just keep it in Hyde Cottage, but put it in this room. And I did. You would think that that would exempt it from any kind of culling, but I did get rid of it. I did send it away. Now I have it again, and it's here for now. But who knows how long any of these things will be here. This collection is in serious flux. But I was challenged. I didn't want to be a soy boy cuck. So here I am. That is a shelf tour in this library that is about to undergo the Hiroshima bomb. It's going to drop on this library next week. And then I will deal with the fallout all the way through the spring. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.